More than 30 combat clashes took place between Ukrainian defense forces and Russian occupiers on the 5th of August. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 6 o'clock on the 5th of August. Quote: Russia launched another missile and air strike on Ukraine last night. Information regarding the aftermath of this terrorist attack is currently being confirmed. Over the past 24 hours, the enemy launched 20 missile strikes. 12 Kalibr missiles were destroyed by anti-aircraft missile units and aircraft of Ukraine's Air Force. In addition, the enemy launched 62 air strikes. In particular, 4 Shahed-type attack drones were used, and all were destroyed. The invaders also launched 86 attacks using multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of our troops and on settlements. Unfortunately, Russian terrorist attacks have resulted in casualties among civilians, both dead and wounded, and residential buildings have been damaged. The likelihood of further missile and air strikes across Ukraine remains high. A total of 30 combat clashes took place over the past day. Details: the situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remained unchanged. On the Severshina and Slobozhanshina fronts, the Russians carried out airstrikes near Odnoborivka, Streleka and Hadish in Kharkiv Oblast. They launched mortar and artillery attacks on more than 30 settlements, in particular, Buchki, Remyak and Vesel, Chernihiv Oblast, Saradina Buda, Babalivka, Studenok, Myropilya and Rybovsky, Sumy Oblast, and Karaitny, Budarki and Zemlyanki, Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, the Ukrainian troops are holding the line, successfully repelling Russian attacks in the areas of Vilshiny and Sinkivka, Kharkiv Oblast. The Russians carried out airstrikes near Kyslivka and Krokmal. More than 10 settlements came under Russian artillery and mortar fire, including Fyholivka, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kupiansk, Kyslivka and Berestov, Kharkiv Oblast. On the Lyman front, Russian troops conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the area of Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast. They carried out airstrikes near Nevsky and Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast, Torsky, Serebryanka, Dubrova and Spern in Donetsk Oblast. The settlements of Kuzmin, Bilohorivka, Torsky, Verkhnekamiansk, Spern and Rozdalivka came under Russian artillery fire. On the Bakhmut front, the Ukrainian defense forces are holding back the Russian advance near Kurdyamivka. The Russians carried out airstrikes near Kromu, Klashivka, Stupochki, Delivka, Oleksandro Shultin and New York Donetsk Oblast. More than 15 settlements came under Russian artillery fire, including Tykonivka, Chasev Yar, Klashivka, Bila Hora, Predtekine and Pivnikny Donetsk Oblast. On the Avdiivka front, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled Russian attacks near Avdiivka while under constant aircraft and artillery fire by the Russians. They launched airstrikes near Novokulinov in Donetsk Oblast. More than 10 settlements, including Orlivka, Stepov, Avdiivka, Vodian, Pervomaysk, and Nevelski Donetsk Oblast, were hit by artillery fire. On the Marinka front, the Ukrainian defense forces continue to hold back an offensive by Russian troops near Marinka. The Russians shelled over 10 settlements, including Krasnohorivka, Marinka, Pobeda, Piorhivka, Novomykhailivka and Kostantinivka Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian troops failed to regain lost positions near Staromyorsk. They launched airstrikes near Pavlivka, Zolotaniva and Staromyorsk Donetsk Oblast. Vuhledar, Prekostivka, Zolotaniva, Lahodatna, Staromyorsk Donetsk Oblast, and Levodnat Zaporizhia Oblast came under Russian artillery fire. On the Zaporizhia front, the Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near Robotyne, Zaporizhia Oblast. The Russians are focusing their primary efforts on preventing the further advance of Ukrainian troops. More than 15 settlements came under Russian artillery fire, including Sherbaki, Mali Sherbaki, Piaty Kotki, Stepnahirsk and Chervonodniprovka in Zaporizhia Oblast. On the Kherson front, more than 20 settlements came under Russian artillery fire, including Ivanivka, Dniprovsky, Bilozerka, Kizimyz and Kherson in Kherson Oblast and Oshakiv in Mykolaiv Oblast. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian defense forces are maintaining their offensive on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, consolidating their positions and striking the Russians. The Ukrainian Air Force launched 7 airstrikes on clusters of Russian military personnel. Ukrainian rocket forces and artillery hit 2 Russian command posts, 5 clusters of Russian military manpower, weapons and military equipment, 4 artillery pieces at their firing positions, 5 ammunition storage points and 1 electronic warfare system. Russians failed to advance in Zaporizhia Oblast, General Staff report. On Saturday, Russian troops conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the vicinity of Robotyne, Zaporizhia Oblast, and failed to regain the lost positions on the Shakhtarsk front. Source: report by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine as of 1800 on the 5th of August. Details: during the day, as of 1800, the Russians launched 1 missile and 48 airstrikes and carried out 8 attacks from rocket salvo systems on the positions of Ukrainian troops in populated areas. The summary of the General Staff was published before the next missile attack on Ukraine on Saturday evening, ed. 30 combat clashes took place over the past day. The operational situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remains much the same as before. On the Severshchina and Slobozhanshchina fronts, the Russians carried out airstrikes near Otnerobivka, Streleka, and Hadish in Kharkiv Oblast. They launched mortar and artillery attacks on more than 30 settlements, in particular, Remyok, Vesel Chernihiv Oblast, Volfin, Pavlivka, Sosnivka, Sumy Oblast, and Verkhnya Pisarivka, Hadish and Varvarivka Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Ukrainian soldiers are firmly holding their defenses. They successfully repulsed Russian attacks near Vilshana and Sinkivka in Kharkiv Oblast. The Russians carried out airstrikes near Kyslivka and Krokmuln in Kharkiv Oblast. More than 10 settlements, including Fyholivka, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kupiansk, Petropavlivka, and Podoly Kharkiv Oblast were hit by Russian artillery and mortar fire. On the Lyman front, the Russians conducted unsuccessful offensive actions near Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast. They carried out airstrikes near Nevsky and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Torsky, Serebryanka, Dubrova and Spernk Donetsk Oblast. The settlements of Kuzmin, Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Torsky, Verkhnyokamyansk, Spern and Rozdalivka, Donetsk Oblast were hit by Russian artillery fire. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on August 6 that Russia had lost 249,700 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes 590 casualties Russian forces suffered just over the past day.